used to work at this small wine bar cafe in my hometown. It was a cozy spot, lots of regulars, quiet weekdays, busy weekends. The building was old, probably early 1900s, and the upstairs had been an apartment at some point. I worked there all through high school, about 3 years, and while people sometimes talked about the place being haunted, I never bought into that kind of thing. But there was always noise from upstairs, constant noise. I'd hear kids running around, playing, their little feet thumping on the floor above. The floorboards would creak when I was downstairs wiping tables or stocking shelves, and sometimes I'd hear water running, like a shower. Voices too. Muffled conversations, sometimes laughing, sometimes singing, especially singing. I figured someone lived up there, and no one ever told me. A family, maybe. The sounds were too clear to be anything else. One night, we had a private party, and it was loud. Loud enough that I could hear the music over the usual noises from upstairs. And at one point, I walked over to my boss, Jen, and told her, "Hey, can you ask the people upstairs to keep it down? I can hear them over the party down here." Jen gave me this weird look. "What do you mean?" she asked. "The people upstairs, the kids or whatever, they're always making noise, but tonight it's extra loud." Her face dropped, and I immediately regretted saying anything. She was dead serious when she told me. No one lives upstairs. No one's lived there since the accident. I laughed it off, assuming she was messing with me, but she wasn't. Jen told me that when she bought the place about 10 years ago, the apartment had been turned into storage. No one had used it since. There weren't even running water lines upstairs. The bathroom had been gutted. I felt this weird chill go through me, but I still thought she was exaggerating. So she called the police, just to make sure there weren't squatters or something. They came in, checked it out. Nothing. No signs of life. Dust on everything, undisturbed. No footprints. No evidence of anyone being up there. And the door was still locked from the outside. The cops looked at us like we were crazy, but they did not find anything. After the police left, Jen pulled me aside and asked if I heard the noises before. I said, "Yeah, all the time." Then she started asking my coworkers, and they all said the same thing. All of us had heard the sounds: kids playing, the floor creaking, water running, and the singing. That's when she told me about the accident. Years ago, when the place was still an apartment, a mother slipped and hit her head in the shower. Died instantly. Her 2 kids, both really young, were left alone. No one knew what happened for days. They starved to death in the apartment, trapped with no one to take care of them. The locals confirmed it when I asked around. After that, I stopped working the night shifts. I did not want to hear those noises anymore, knowing what I now knew. I still don't believe in ghosts, though, but I do believe in bad plumbing and creaky old buildings. I've got a story to tell. This isn't my house, but my cousin's, though I practically lived there when I was younger. To give you some context, I never believed in ghosts or anything supernatural. My family, on the other hand, is a whole different story. They believe in spirits, curses, and all the weird things you hear about growing up in an Asian household. It started with my cousin. He's the kind of guy who wouldn't lie about this sort of thing. He came inside one evening, looking spooked. He said there was a man standing outside the gate, muttering something under his breath before walking away. The rest of the family freaked out a little. They were convinced it was some kind of bad omen. There's this belief where I'm from that if a stranger does something like that, your house has been marked for something bad. Things started to get weird after that. My cousin's sister claimed that when she walked into her bedroom one night, there was a woman dressed in some old Victorian-style clothing sitting on her bed, crying. Just to clarify, we used to be a British colony, so everyone immediately assumed it had something to do with that. Then, people started seeing doppelgangers of family members around the house, like full-on doubles of people. But when you asked, the real person wasn't even home. The weirdest part? Some nights, people swore they saw something furry, like an animal, peeking into their windows. The worst incident was when my cousin, again, completely normal guy, just fell to the floor one afternoon, shaking like he was having a seizure. He had never had any medical issues before that. While he was on the ground, he started rambling about a bearded man standing in the corner of his room and just staring at him. We looked, but of course, there was no one there. And after that, the family had hit their breaking point. They dragged us all to this local priest to cleanse the house. They did the usual prayers, burned incense, sprinkled holy water, honestly, the whole 9 yards. And after that, everything calmed down. No more strange people outside the house, no ghost sightings, no mysterious animals, and my cousin never had another episode. I did not really buy into any of it then, and I still don't. But growing up, you keep your mouth shut, especially around family. Who knows, maybe there's some truth to it, or maybe it's just what people convince themselves of what they're scared of. Anyway, that's it. The family's convinced the house was cursed, but I've got my own theory. Maybe the guy outside was just trying to go to the bathroom, got lost, and we overreacted. I never really believed in ghosts. Sure, I was entertained by the idea, but when someone told me they actually believed in them, I'd write them off as overly imaginative or just weird. Ghosts? Seriously? There's a logical explanation for everything, right? Well, at least that's what I used to think, until I lived in a haunted house. It started off small, easy to explain away, like the bathroom door. Whenever someone latched it, it would swing open violently. At first I thought it was just a bad lock, but it happened so often that we just got used to it. Eventually we stopped even trying to close the door. One night I asked my roommate if he ever noticed a weird red light coming from the spare bedroom whenever he walked up the stairs in the dark. And I saw it all the time, but I couldn't figure out where it came from. He nodded, said he'd seen it too. Naturally, I'd go in there to check things out, but there was never a source for the light. These were things I could brush off though. Maybe the door was warped. Maybe the red light was some trick from the streetlights outside. I could make sense of it. But then, things got weirder. One night I was sitting in the living room with my girlfriend and my roommate. We were just talking when I noticed something in the window across the room. It looked like a woman's face, right there in the glass pane. My heart skipped a beat. I did not say anything at first because I figured it was some reflection, maybe a shadow from the outside. But then my roommate pointed at the window, and my girlfriend turned white. We all saw it, a woman's face, clear as day. I still tried to brush it off, saying it was a trick of the light. It had to be, but that face haunted me more than I let on. Then, one night, while I was brushing my teeth, something tugged on my sleeve. It wasn't subtle, either. It felt like something was insisting on getting my attention. You know how when you're fishing and you feel a fish nibble on the line? It was like that, but on my t-shirt. I stood there frozen for a moment, staring at my reflection in the mirror, trying to rationalize it. I was in the middle of the bathroom, nothing around to catch my sleeve on. It freaked me out, but I tried not to make a big deal of it. Still, things were getting harder to ignore. Footsteps. We started hearing them upstairs when no one was home. Shadows darting around the corners of rooms. And one time, I saw a shadow right in front of me, in the middle of the living room, not against a wall, but just there, in the air. I walked around it, trying to find an explanation, but it stayed in place for a full 5 minutes before it just disappeared. Twice, while heading up the stairs to bed, I heard a woman's voice whisper, "Good night," over my shoulder. I turned around, thinking maybe my roommate was playing a prank, but he was always either out or asleep. The strangest thing, though, happened on New Year's Eve 3 years ago. My roommate and I were waiting for guests to arrive for a small party we were hosting. We were sitting in the living room, chatting. Suddenly, I felt something brush against my arm, like a light touch. Before I could react, the light bulb in the lamp next to me exploded. Glass everywhere. We just stared at each other, speechless. More things happened. Too many to remember, honestly. And at some point I stopped trying to explain it all away. Maybe some things just don't have an easy explanation. I've moved out since, but I left that house with a new perspective. So yeah, I did not believe in ghosts, but now, let's just say I'm open to the possibility. It all started when I was about 7 months pregnant with my daughter. My husband and I were asleep in bed. Nothing unusual about that night. But suddenly, something pulled me out of my sleep. I opened my eyes and looked toward the doorway of our bedroom. There, I saw a small figure, a toddler who I thought was our 2-year-old son, dragging a blanket behind him. He walked right past the door and into the laundry room. Immediately, I got chills. The hair on the back of my neck stood up, but I shrugged it off, thinking maybe our son was just sleepwalking. My husband had a history of it as a kid, so I figured it could run in the family. I gently nudged him awake and whispered, "Hey, can you go get Jaden? He's sleepwalking again." He gave me a confused look, but got up and headed for the laundry room. And after a moment, he called back, "Jaden isn't here, sweetheart." Now I was confused. I had been watching the laundry room entrance the whole time. I never saw him come back out. My husband checked our son's room on the other side of the house, and sure enough, there he was, sound asleep under his blankets. Weird, right? But I brushed it off as pregnancy brain. I did not think much more of it. Months went by and we welcomed our daughter. Life moved on and things got busy with 2 little ones around. One afternoon I was in the shower while the kids were down for their naps. I was rinsing shampoo out of my hair when I heard little footsteps. Quick, running footsteps, like a child's. I opened my eyes just in time to see a boy, who wasn't my son, wearing a red shirt and jean shorts, run past the bathroom and into the closet. This time I wasn't freaked out, strangely enough. It felt almost normal, like I'd seen the kid before. It's hard to explain, but I wasn't scared. Since then, it's happened several times over the last 5 years. Every time, it's the same boy. He's aged a bit though. Now he looks like he's around 4, and he always runs by me when I'm in the shower, like he's chasing something I can't see. The most recent time was actually the creepiest, though. My husband and I were asleep, and it was still dark outside. Our two oldest kids, now 5 and 3, came into our room to wake us up. They stood on my husband's side of the bed, silhouetted against the light coming from the bathroom behind them. My husband was awake but did not open his eyes, just listening. I told them both to go to the potty, and I'd turn on a show for them. I told my older son to use the hall bathroom and let his sister use ours. He just stood there, so I repeated myself. And eventually he turned and headed down the hall, while my daughter went into our bathroom. And I sat up in bed, waiting for them to come back. A minute later, my son returned and sat on the floor. He looked up at me and said, "Hey, Mom, can you turn on a show?" I replied, "Let's wait for your sister." He glanced back at me, confused. "Mom, she's still asleep." "No, she's not. I saw her go into our bathroom." He shook his head. "She's in her bed, Mom." My stomach dropped. I jumped out of bed, rushed to the bathroom, and it was empty. I ran to my daughter's room, and there she was, sound asleep, just as my son had said. Since then, I've heard footsteps upstairs when we're all downstairs, or in the hallway when I'm around the corner. The sound of little feet running. I can't say I'm scared anymore, but the feeling of being watched never really goes away. It's like this extra kid has become a part of the household, always around, always just out of sight. But the strangest part, I've started noticing small things I did not think about before. Toys that my kids don't play with anymore are always in different spots. My daughter's dolls are never where she leaves them. And sometimes I hear soft giggles from down the hall, even when my own children are fast asleep. Last night, as I tucked my daughter into bed, she looked up at me, serious as can be, and said, "Mom, can you tell that boy to stop staring at me while I sleep? We don't talk about it anymore." I lived in a haunted house once. Yeah, I know how that sounds. Ghosts aren't real. You must have imagined it. There's always a logical explanation. Trust me, I've heard it all. But I know what I saw. Anyway, here's what happened. It was an old farmhouse in rural Norway, a place that had always had a reputation for being haunted, according to the locals. The house belonged to my now ex-wife's family. It was her uncle's summer cottage, but no one had used it in years. We needed a place to stay after we moved from the US, and this place was available, so it seemed like a win-win. It was actually a cozy spot, nestled in a valley on the edge of a river with beautiful views. We even brought our cat with us from the States. I loved it there, at first. For the first couple of months, everything was perfectly normal, peaceful even. But then the voices started. At first, it was just a low murmur, like women talking in another room, muffled and indistinguishable. And I brushed it off. Old houses make weird noises, right? Especially ones that have been sitting empty for a while. Easy to dismiss. But things escalated. One night I woke up around 3 a.m. because I heard voices again, but this time they were coming from the kitchen. There was a distinct smell of food cooking too. Now, my ex-wife family was the kind that would drop by unannounced, but at 3 in the morning? No way. Still, I was more annoyed than freaked out. I thought maybe someone had let themselves in, as they tended to do. I got up and headed toward the kitchen, still hearing the women talking. As I reached the door, the voices stopped. I opened it anyway. The lights were on, the oven was warm, and the air smelled like a full meal had just been made. But no one was there. The kitchen was empty. I stood there for a minute, trying to piece it together. The only thing that made sense was maybe I was sleepwalking or something. So I went back to bed. But after that night, things took a darker turn. We started hearing screams. Sometimes they'd come from the attic, other times from the cellar. They were always at night, and they always seemed to happen when we were just about to fall asleep. The cat, usually calm, was freaking out too. She started acting like she could see things that we couldn't, chasing invisible figures, hissing at empty spaces. It was unnerving, but we still stayed. Looking back, I don't know why. Then came the night that broke us. We were woken up by this awful, guttural screeching noise that was coming from the living room. It was the cat. I got up to check on her, expecting to find her tangled in something or maybe sick. But when I got to the living room, I did not see her at first. Then I looked up. She was standing on the ceiling. I'm not making this up. My fluffy, white blue-eyed cat was literally standing upside down on the ceiling, defying gravity. Her eyes were glowing red in the moonlight that spilled through the window, and she was howling in this bone-chilling way that I've never heard before. My wife came running out of the bedroom, saw the same thing, and screamed. The cat immediately stopped howling and just stared at us. Then it opened its mouth and said, in Norwegian, "Get out," in the voice of an old woman. We both froze. The red glow in her eyes faded, and she dropped from the ceiling, landing on her feet like nothing had happened. She casually walked away, like it was just another Tuesday night. We packed a bag that night and slept at my wife's parents' house. The next day, we moved out for good. I don't know what that place was, but it wasn't normal. We never went back. Hey, what's up guys? It's Spooky. If you've made it this far, congratulations, you survived. If you did not know, I have an Instagram. Follow me on there so we can connect. I also have a Patreon. On there, you'll have direct access to me and can see the upcoming videos, polls, and soon-to-be exclusive stories only shared on there. If that's something that interests you, please consider joining. That's all I have for you guys tonight. Stay spooky, and I'll see you in the next video.